Okay, but Islam
But
at
why
this moment
would-
is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Trudeau would have you arrested. Fuck you, Trudeau.
Kid ourselves. With more than 1 billion Muslims in the world, the number of people who think apostates should be killed, for example, it's not insignificant. This is a conversation about Islam and religion in general that I think we need to have.
Trudeau would have you arrested.
If everyone had just agreed and we'd moved on, maybe we wouldn't be addressing the very scary and real spike in hate speech.
We need honesty in this conversation. We need people to accept that there's a problem with Islamist extremism. And there's also, in fact, a challenge in dealing with taking Islam out of its medieval heyday, the paradigms, the theological paradigms that were developed in the medieval era that we simply haven't moved on from.
It's gross. It's racist. It's not.
It's easy to try and scare people into voting for you.
Fuck you, Trudeau.
We have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
So forth, and the balance of the motion. But let me take issue first with your definition. You started out by defining Islamophobia as fear of Muslims. It's not Muslimophobia. It's not phobia about people, Muslims, or a group of people. It's Islamophobia, which is a religion. Islam is not a race. It's not a people. It's a religion.
It's gross. It's racist. It's not.
I said discrimination. I didn't say fear. I said discrimination against people of...
Happen to be both people of color and first or second generation immigrants. We are doubly affected, both by hatred and violence from Muslims, but also bigotry and xenophobia from the broader American public.
It's gross. It's racist. It's not.
For example, when I first published a piece fact-checking Raza Aslan, who is a prominent Muslim scholar, on his dismissal of female genital mutilation as only an African problem, not a Muslim one, I got many responses from people unhappy with what I wrote, almost all of whom questioned my motives rather than addressing my claims. To my surprise, most of my critics were not Muslims. Rather, they identified as liberals and sometimes even atheists.
Trudeau would have you arrested.
Age of 5, if you can want something, you know, I wanted it because I was called, and again I describe that in detail, I would be called kintirle, which means the one with the clitoris, and at the time I didn't understand what a clitoris was, and you would be the, you know, the filthy one, the child nobody wants to play with, the child who's spat upon.
Trudeau would have you arrested.
The House, as I understand it, as far as we can tell, is unanimous in agreement with what you just said, that these attacks are terrible.
Is that the egg thing?
And should be condemned.
And therefore, so what's next?
The argument is not about whether that's all true. The argument is about the inclusion of the word Islamophobia.
Come on, cut it. She's gonna give us at least 4.
Which for some people means literally what it says, fear of Islam, which is a religion, which is subject to reasonable criticism. Someone may say that I object strongly to Islamic ideas like the death to apostates, death to the infidels, death to gays. They may object to those things, and those are reasonable objections, and that's fear of Islam.
Oh shit! They got me!
But it's not discrimination against Muslims. Do you appreciate the... Do you
I see
agree
the
that there is a
differences,
distinction?
But the idea is right now we know that the Muslim community is being targeted. This is a fact. I just gave you the data.
Makes the proposal, well, why don't you just say anti-Muslim bigotry? Then we know we're talking about people, not ideas.
Well,
Tell me!